So, we're back to this. Yeah, I got me good for not finishing these last year. Do you, though? Yes, I owe it to a few people that I don't know that I talk about a show that isn't very good. Great, a lunatic with standards. Look, I don't care, but if my review is delayed, I'm putting the blame on you. Unsurprisingly, I think I can live with that. Anyway, hello YouTube. So sorry I couldn't finish these videos for you guys last year, but very important things came up. Why does Halloween have to end? No, I'm not overreacting, Goldie. No, I can't really drink anything with this mask on. Well, I mean, I was also working, so there's that. Anyway, so let's not waste any more time, and let's actually get into this episode. So the first story is The Maze, which is directed by the legendary Toby Hooper, who you may or may not know for Billy Idol's Dancing with Myself music video. He directed that. Oh, and he also did like this really obscure little movie called Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but who cares about that? Billy Idol! So yeah, we'll talk about whether or not he actually did a good job after we do a little plot synopsis. So in this one, Susan Thornhill, which is probably the coolest last name that we've gotten on the show thus far, she's socially awkward, and that is emphasized by her friend Gail, who never shows back up in this story ever again, reminding her that she's socially awkward, you know, in case she forgot. Yeah, Gail just sort of lets us know random exposition, because screw showing this in a visual way, because, you know, there's no way to do that. Outside, some guy asking her out to a concert, so, you know, we could have actually seen her go to the concert, have seen some of the social anxiety there. Heck, they could have actually built a whole lot more of a relationship between her and Wes during that interaction. Like, maybe she actually knew Wes for a long time, and so she decides to go with him, hoping that'll help her get over her fears a little bit, but it's only worse because she really doesn't want to embarrass herself in front of him, too, so it's just all compounded in something that's even worse. We really do get to just see that. We don't need to hear about it from someone that she just knows, but yeah, Gail also lets us know that she's friends with the music professor, who does not have a name, but will oddly be important in this story, unlike Gail, who doesn't matter, but we have a name for her. I don't get it either. So yeah, after being reminded about how horrible her social anxiety is, she goes for a walk and then notices that Wes is around. So, you know, she decides to run into a maze in order to escape him. Could probably just walk past him. Just like wave hi or something. You don't have to do that, but okay. I mean, I have social anxiety too. Don't get me wrong. I'm extremely socially anxious. Admittedly, it's a different kind for me. Like, I don't actually have a problem with crowds. In fact, I prefer being in large crowds because, well, they're a bunch of strangers, and if I embarrass myself in front of them, then I don't care because I don't know any of these people. Whereas in a group of friends, I actually am a little bit more anxious because, well, if I embarrass myself for doing something stupid, then that just is gonna last with me. So, with people who I'm actually friends with, so yeah. But yeah, it is a different type of social anxiety that I have, but still, I do understand that to an extent. I just sort of wish that there was a bit more of a reason as to why she's avoiding Wes here. Instead, it's just like, oh, well, I said no to his date proposal, so that means I gotta just walk away from him forever. You know, like I said, I really do wish that she actually did know him for a while, and that she did actually go to the concert. Because then maybe, like, at the end of it, she could have actually lashed out over the whole situation, him bringing her there, knowing about her social anxiety, and then just, you know, that's the reason why she's avoiding him. She's embarrassed about lashing out about it, while also still feeling a bit justified about it, and still a bit angry. So, her avoiding him entirely makes a bit more sense, but nope, instead the whole reason is just, I just turned him down this one time, let me avoid him forever. So yeah, you know, like how most people are. So yeah, she goes into the maze, and she gets out. Okay, lost suspense there. So yeah, she gets out, and she ends up in a world where seemingly no one's around. And this actually seems like a good premise here. She's in a whole entire alternate dimension where there just is nobody. Sort of a bit like there was time enough that last episode of The Twilight Zone where a guy is given too much of a good thing, and in the end, he's not able to actually enjoy it. Maybe they did something like that with her here, or maybe if she was trapped here, then this would actually be really interesting and be a great story. It has all the makings for one, it has some pretty good actors here, and it is actually building it up pretty well. So, what do they do with it? Well, she runs into the music professor, who is teaching to an audience of dead students. You know, like how you do. And she's gone insane pretty much, so she runs away from her because, well, obvious reasons. And she runs into Wes, who's hiding behind like some weird moving around bookcases. I don't know what that's about. Is that just something that they have at college? I've never actually been to college. That thing that they have in colleges, like the bookshelves move if you click a button, like it's some weird Resident Evil puzzle. Is that something that colleges do? Because I have no idea. But it seems really stupid. So, yeah, he pretty much tells her just immediately, because Gail's not around to give the exposition right now, so he decides to just tell her, yeah, there's an apocalypse about to happen, so everyone's hiding out, and I'm just staying around here because I like books, and I'm gonna die reading. This is stupid. So, yeah, the music professor finds them, kills Wes. Oh, what tragedy. We hardly knew thee because you had no real development and weren't interesting. And Susan finds a way back right before Armageddon hits. But also, she found out that this is actually in the future, like 2 years in her future, in the brave new world of 2003. We'll get there someday. But, yeah, so she finds out that was in 2003, and this episode was set in 2001, so, yeah, she's got 2 years until this happens, so what does she do with this horrible information that the world's going to be destroyed in 2 years? She takes Wes out on a date. Yeah, that's exactly what I would do with that too. To be fair, I would probably just write that off as a bad dream because, well, it'd be really weird to just be like, hey, random scientists, yeah, there's gonna be an asteroid crashing into Earth. Don't worry, I know that this is true because I went through a maze and it took me to the future. Yeah, that'd be a bit weird, but still, I mean, I'm just saying, I would be at least a bit freaked out about that, maybe, like, take a day to process it, and then go out on the date with Wes, but no, she seems really cool about this. I wouldn't be, but okay. So, yeah, she gets back, and I guess she's over her anxiety a bit, which is something, I guess. So, yeah, this story is okay. Tobe Hooper actually does a really good job directing here. As there are actually some pretty cool shots, mostly showing how vacant this other world is, but beyond that, there's nothing really overtly special, but there are some very cool shots in it, so I will give him credit there. And he's just in general a good director, so yeah, well, was a good director. Unfortunately, he has passed away a few years ago, so rip Tobe Hooper, but yeah, this just overall seemed like a good story. Like, it was building up to actually be something really endearing, but then just sort of went downhill when she actually goes to the other dimension. Like, yes, okay, there's a bunch of exposition being thrown around in the first half, but it does at least seem to be leading somewhere, and does seem to be a rather interesting direction. Her just wandering around, just for being all alone, is actually kind of fascinating, and you really do want to see where it goes. But when you find out that it's just all because of an Armageddon, it kind of takes some of the intrigue out of it. Giving a reason to something bizarre and Twilight Zone-y never really works. You don't need to have this stuff explained. It's just an experience and you just need to go along with it. Adding an explanation onto it is fine, but it kind of takes out some of the mystique, and that's definitely what happens here. Because this could have been a very endearing story, it's just that it gets kind of bogged down by, well, being explained away in some respect, and frankly, to me, that's its biggest problem. That, and we don't really get to actually go into Susan's social anxiety. Like I said, there are actually a few ways I think they could have actually done that very well, sort of along the lines of Mr. Robot, that obviously wasn't out yet, but that is a show that I really do love for how it represents social anxiety in a visual sense. Just even in the first episode, they show him unable to actually go to his best friend's birthday party because there are a bunch of strangers there. He even almost goes in, but two people opening up the door and leaving is enough for him to just turn away. If we got something like that with her here, I would have really loved it, and it's just disappointing that we never actually get to see anything like that, because this could have actually been something that could have been explored in a very interesting way, but instead, it's just sort of told to us by a character who never comes back. And speaking of the characters, they're fine. Like I said, Gale serves no purpose outside of giving us exposition, and her never returning doesn't help make her any better. The music professor is okay. Her actress has actually done a lot, so yeah, she really does actually seem to be having fun by playing just sort of a very nice person who ends up going completely insane, but still wants to be a teacher a bit. It's actually pretty fun with her. Just how easily she's snapped out of insanity is pretty stupid. They're just like, here, look at this newspaper, Armageddon is happening, and she's like, oh, really? Okay, I'm sane now, goodbye. That's pretty much what happens. It's just like, okay. Like, she actually had a way of coping with this. Sure, it wasn't a good way, but she seemed fairly content, and there were only a few minutes until the apocalypse hit. But yeah, let her live those last few minutes just freaking out about the end of the world and actually processing everything that she's actually been keeping restrained. And just processing everything that she's actually been holding in this whole time. Yeah, I'm sure she'll be fine. Wes is pretty boring, honestly. Like, there's nothing really overly interesting about him. He's just pretty generic and obsessed with Susan. Like, just the second that he sees her on any security cam, he's just like, okay, you can come in immediately to my little library here. I'm so alone. And, he's just, the main thing that he regretted when the apocalypse happened is that she never actually went on that date with him. It's really kind of lame. But he's a fine character as is. He's nice. He's just kind of creepishly obsessed with Susan. But beyond that, he's not horrible or anything. And Susan is honestly just kind of bland. Like I said, I wish that they explored some of her social anxiety a little bit more, as I think that could have made her a whole lot more interesting. And it seems like when she actually goes through the maze and after she sort of accepts that there aren't that many people there, it's not really focused on at all, and it just sort of feels incomplete because of that. But overall, the story is fine, just it could have used some work in some aspects, definitely on what actually happens with the maze, and I think a little bit of the setup, but where she actually ends up going could have been just as creepy without any explanation, if not more so, and that's what I really wish they went for instead. But as is, it's an okay story, and it's definitely one of the better ones out of this series so far. So let's see if Harmony's the same. It's not. So, Harmony is about some guy named Eli whose car breaks down right outside of some town called Harmony, where they don't like harmonies. Surprised that the main character of this story wasn't like someone called Melody. It's so subtle. So, yeah, he ends up in this town, and well, obviously he decides to ask what's up with this place because there seems to be no music playing anywhere, or any TVs or anything. And some girl named Lucinda, who, by the way, was in Wes Craven's New Nightmare and was Emma's mom on Scream, the TV series. Truly her most important role. I'll shamefully admit that I've seen that show twice. I know, it sucks. I agree. I just want to give it a second chance because I really love Scream. It wasn't worth it. Still not that great of a show. Though I did get my hair cut like Audrey, so that's something. Admittedly, she does have good hair. So yeah, she says that this town's actually a pretty great place, just so long as you follow some of the weird little rules that they have here, which he eventually finds out after staying in a bed and breakfast, that those rules are actually that you can't make any kind of music or have any radio waves or anything playing, hence why things like TVs and radios aren't allowed here. And the reason why, as he ultimately gets explained to him by some guy named Tim, who played Tim in Final Destination 2. Truly has a lot of range. But, yeah, he tells him that the whole entire reason is because, well, it sounds a bit weird because they think that if a song is played to its entirety, then a creature called the Beast will be summoned that will kill them all. It's a bit weird of a superstition, and even more weird that has lasted for at least 2 centuries, but somehow it has, and somehow they still really follow it, and yeah, he pretty much just wants to leave this town because he thinks that they're all nut jobs, rightfully so. So Eli decides, yeah, I'll help you out with that. This town seems a little bit weird. But he decides that first he's going to go check out the graves to make sure that Tim is telling the truth, because he said that for the most part, it's teenagers who have been being killed over this because, well, if they see anyone actually playing music, they'll kill them. Unless it's Eli. They give him like 3 chances with this. It's really weird. But, yeah, for some odd reason, they will kill their own family members. It has to be a member of the family to do this. They will kill their children in order to make sure that they don't play music. I feel like you could just destroy the thing they're playing music on, or just, like, I don't know, duct tape their mouths shut for a little bit. I'm just saying, I feel like there are a ton of solutions here, but, like, nope, just murder your child. Yep, that's a much better solution. And he sees the after effects of that as one of the people who just murdered their son Pete decides to kill herself. Oh, this is such a fun little story, isn't it? So yeah, after seeing that, he decides that, yeah, pretty much agree with Tim. I'm gonna get the heck out of this town. So coincidentally, the town just gives him back his car, and they're like, here you go, you can leave now. And he's just like, well, yeah, but I want to take Tim. And they're like, no, we're keeping him, because he has a CD, because he stole one of your CDs, ergo, we gotta kill him. He's leaving the town. You don't have to kill him. But yeah, anyway, Lucinda is so sold on this that she's about ready to kill her own brother. Oh, this is a great society. And then Eli just says, no, this is a really stupid idea, and just starts singing. And the town is cool with it, and they all start singing, because screw traditions that have made us kill our own family members for 2 centuries now. That's not important. This guy's singing a song, and he's gone through the first verse, and nothing's happened. Clearly, that means that all of our superstitions are entirely false. Let's just start singing. This town is really easily led. So yeah, they all sing American Grace, and it seems like everything's pretty great for like 5 seconds, and then the Beast is summoned. So, yeah, it turns out that, yeah, they were actually right this whole time, and Eli was an idiot, and so they all die. Yay! So, yeah, this story's, pretty dumb. Yeah, I will give it this. It's actually a pretty fun story. Like, it's so stupid that it's really funny, and did actually get me to laugh a lot during it, so I will give it credit on that. But that doesn't change that this is still a pretty dumb story. It's also a bit in contradiction to some previous episodes, as we've gone 2 of them about blind faith thus far, and one of them also about an urban legend turning out to be true. So we've already sort of seen the story tackled, and both of the blind faith ones usually show that in a negative sense. So it's really weird that they're going the reverse direction here, but still, I guess it was kind of unexpected. I mean, in the sense that you totally expect something to happen because they keep on lingering on this. To me, the more effective ending here would have just been Eli singing the song all on his own and him almost finishing it, maybe including a little bit of ambiguity with like maybe a shadow and like a lot of wind coming over the town. Like it's unclear as to whether or not this is like just bad weather or if it's actually the beast being summoned, but yeah, they start seeing that happening, and so they kill Eli and Tim. So like instead, it's left more ambiguous, and this tradition is just going to continue and continue in a town that is pretty much peaceful, but just has this really dark side to it. Instead, focusing a bit more on the town's in general hysteria and just insane decisions caused due to superstition, instead of focusing on, yeah, no, they were right this whole time, and Eli's an idiot. It's just a really weird ending for this story, as it seemed to be going in at least one direction or the other. It seemed to either be either Eli's right, well, Eli and Tim, or the town is right. But instead, it kind of chooses both, and it's really weird. So, for me, I would prefer an ending with a bit more ambiguity, or at least a little bit more karma, but as is, it's fine in a funny sense. There isn't really any message to this one, though. There's nothing really, like, that makes it actually feel impactful. Nothing really stays with you from the story, outside of, well, how dumb the beast looks. Seriously, it's like early CGI, it looks really crappy, but still, the town is so over the top that it can be pretty fun at times, and that's probably its best aspect, as the rest of the story just really isn't that endearing. Eli doesn't have that much to his character. He seems like he would sort of be a drifter type, but isn't really. Like, he's only a drifter in that he's on his own in the beginning of the story. Beyond that, he's just a pretty nice guy and doesn't really act like a drifter at all. Like, he never acts like a lone wolf or anything. Lucinda is probably the most complex one, but even at that, she's not that endearing. Pretty much, she completely buys in on everything going on in the town, up to the point that she almost murders her younger brother, which is interesting, but still, it's just like she's immediately convinced not to do that by Eli, and then is just pretty much left saying, yeah, no, we were right all along, and then she dies. So any sort of character progression with her is just sort of taken away by the ending, and Tim is okay. Like, the town, pretty much he does not buy into anything in the town, and immediately wants to get out of there. Honestly, I think that he would have been a much more interesting protagonist, sort of following someone who actually lives in this town and has been seeing all the hysteria here, just sort of from his perspective as someone who has been here for months, instead of just, like, a day or two. I think that would have been a whole lot more interesting, especially since, well, he has a sister who is completely in belief who completely believes in all of this and isn't going to help him escape at all. But as is, he only gets like 3 scenes in this story, and really he doesn't get to do much in them outside of tell Eli what's going on, and then be like, no, please don't kill me, and then they die anyway, so it was all for naught. So, yeah, as is, the story is pretty silly and ridiculous, but that's what makes it fun. It's definitely not a good story, nor is it scary in any sense, but it is a pretty fun one if you just want something to laugh about, which is definitely how I enjoyed this one. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!